Hey Ashley, thanks so much for your lesson. That was great. So I'm going to add a middle and an end to your choreography. I have a broken foot, so I'm going to just do arms. I am not going to do legs. So I'll modify it just a bit. So here we go. All right, there you go. Response to question number 1. Do you think BME is more than a structure? Personally, I disagree with McCutcheon. I do not think that BME is more than a structure. I feel that BME is a structured way to create dances through the medium of choreography. The point of BME is that choreography is being intentionally created with the intent of a starting point, a sustaining the movement phrase, and then ending the phrase. I truly feel that there are times that choreography is not intentional. I feel that in situations of, say, praise dancing, which is considered to be inspired through a spiritual sense of enlightenment, or even trance dancing, where people are dancing within a trance or are experiencing some type of alternative or out-of-body experience. In those situations, choreography is actually an unintentional inspired form of dancing. And in these situations, dancing is not necessarily a movement or choreographic phrase. And it also doesn't have an intentional beginning, middle, or end. Sure, I agree with the fact that it may have a BME. Of course, you have to become inspired, and then you sustain that inspiration, and then that inspiration may wane or end. However, McCutcheon's description of BME requires choreographic intent and actually dismisses the absence of intent. And so, while I agree it is potentially more than a structure in some forms of choreography, I don't feel that it is in all forms of choreography. Response to question number 2. Do you think that all of dance, every movement we make, has a beginning, middle, and end? Once again, I think that in an intentional creation of movement or choreographic phrases, yes. All movements are supported by the BME principles as defined by McCutcheon. However, I feel that in situations void of intent, BME is very hard to define. Additionally, I feel that sustained movement qualities, as defined by educational dance and choreographic principles, were actually defined and objectified to support movement that isn't meant to have a BME. For instance, in the practice of 5 rhythms, which was designed by Gabrielle Roth in the late 1970s, this philosophy actually taps into different types of movement that only end with the beginning of one rhythm and only begin with the ending of another. And they're not independent of one another. However, the duration of these rhythms or movements is undefined, and the intent is actually accomplished through a meditative state, meaning that it is once again an inspired state of movement. And to be completely honest, I've used the 5 rhythms process in many of my classes, particularly with advanced dancers. And I have to admit that I don't feel that BME applies in areas that there is lack of intent behind dancing that takes on some type of inspired or meditative state. So therefore, once again, I have to say that I disagree with McCutcheon based off of the fact that BME is solidified in intent. And I feel that BME does not recognize lack of intent.